Hello, my name is H.J. Clark, and I'm a member of the AAPM&R Content Creator Group and currently the Chief Resident at Stanford PM&R Residency. And it is my honor to interview Dr. Stephanie Tao as part of Future Leaders series. Dr. Tao, thank you so much for joining us today, and please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Thanks for having me. So I'm Stephanie Tao. I am a physiatrist who subspecializes in pediatric rehab medicine and pediatric sports medicine, along with adaptive and parasports medicine. I'm located over at Children's Hospital Colorado and University of Colorado. And I did fellowships in both pediatric rehab medicine and in pediatric sports medicine. I'm also brain injury medicine certified, board certified, as well as PM&R board certified. And I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And you have such a quite a plethora and an accomplished background because you are not just one, but quadruple board certified. So could you talk us a little bit about, obviously why PM&R as your primary specialty and why you decide to pursue further fellowships, and I guess further subspecialties in the areas of your choice?
Yeah, so I think early on in medical school, I was fortunate to go to a medical school that had a really large presence of the PM&R department. So I went to Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School, one of the few allopathic medical schools in the country that still has a mandatory PM&R rotation. So the PM&R department was very highly involved with the medical school curriculum ever, like all the way since the first year of medical school. I actually went into medical school thinking I was going to be a surgeon. Unfortunately sustained a sports injury where I tore my ACL my first year of med school skiing moguls. Thought naturally, okay, maybe I'll think about the field of sports medicine, and thinking I was going to be more surgical. I checked out orthopedic surgery, but at the same time, because I had already heard about this field of PM&R through my exposures in medical school in my first year of med school, I thought, well, you know what? I better go check out what PM&R is all about. And I realized while I liked the procedural side of orthopedics, I didn't love that there wasn't a lot of continuity with patients. I felt that appointments were not, they focused on a little bit of function, but I felt like when I was in my PM&R clinic appointments or on the inpatient unit, I noticed there was a lot more focus on function, and I realized, oh, this is what I'm passionate about, that I want to help patients improve their quality of life and their function. I also love that PM&R still had a good amount of involvement with doing some procedural aspects as well. And then going into my third year med school, I remembered, oh, during my pediatrics rotation, I actually really love working with kids. Let me go check out pediatric PM&R. And so I ended up really loving working with children with different types of disabilities and advocating for their needs and supporting them at such a young age and through their development and function. And then during my PM&R residency, I was mentored by one of my colleagues and realized there's also a field of pediatric sports medicine. And so, really, along the way, I decided, okay, I think I want to do both pediatric rehab medicine and pediatric sports medicine. Fortunately, found some colleagues that were slightly ahead of me in training, Dr. Mary Dubon and also Dr. Erin Carlin, who had already done those two paths. So it made it easier for me to make that decision that they had already done it. And so I decided to pursue both fellowships in pediatric rehab medicine, followed by pediatric sports medicine. At the same time, early since medical school, I also had started getting an interest in para and adaptive sports medicine. And when I decided to do those two fellowships, I realized actually it would be really great for my expertise with taking care of adaptive and para sports athletes as well, because the pediatric rehab fellowship prepares you really well to take care of people with cerebral palsy, spina bifida, congenital amputations, a lot of things that maybe we don't get as much exposure to in the adult PM&R residency world. And so that was another secondary gain of doing both fellowships.
That is incredible. And I think you kind of touched upon your joy and your passion for working with I guess people who are in adaptive sports. And actually that brings me to my next question is that tell us a little bit more about how you became involved in the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee and what has been the most rewarding aspect about being a medical director and the head team physician for the U.S. Paralympic swimming team.
So I credit a bunch of my mentors for helping me get to where I am today. One of my earliest mentors was Dr. Jen-Fu Chang, who's a pediatric physiatrist in New Jersey, who I rotated with when I was in medical school. He ran this adaptive climbing program that was really a robust program for children with all sorts of disabilities, 10-week program. A lot of us in our med school would help the students belay or help them with adaptive climbing. So that was one of my early exposures to adaptive sports. Started getting more involved with my interest in adaptive sports throughout medical school. And then really in residency when I was at UT Southwestern, I was fortunate to be in a program in a city that had so many different adaptive sports opportunities and programs, but none of them really connected back to our hospital system. They didn't have like a direct relationship. And so I worked with a couple of colleagues, Dr. Bob Rinaldi, Dr. Jason Smith, who was one of our rehab psychologists at UT Southwestern, um, Dr. Charlie Kenyon, who is now at UW. He was a medical student at the time. A bunch of us worked together to create this adaptive sports coalition in Dallas Fort Worth, where UT Southwestern and our partnering hospital systems were the central hub. And then we had these spokes out to the other adaptive sports community programs. And so that was great because then we had this great partnership with all of these different adaptive sports programs. We created this annual expo where we were able to get our patients, even patients who are on inpatient, they could get like a day pass to go to this expo each year if they were medically stable, to be able to check out all these amazing opportunities in adaptive sports and recreation. So then fast forward, I applied to pediatric rehab fellowship and I met my now mentor and now partner, Dr. Pam Wilson, who was my program director for my pediatric rehab fellowship. She's a Paralympian in wheelchair curling. And she learned of my interests in taking care of adaptive and parasports athletes when I interviewed for fellowship. And so actually, after, like before I even found out I was matching there, she had emailed me saying, hey, FYI, US Paralympic Swimming is running a Paralympic classifier course. You should apply. And it was perfect because I was a swimmer. That was my main sport growing up. So that was the main sport I was interested in. The timing worked out. I applied and was able to train to be a medical classifier my fourth year of residency before even starting PEDS Rehab Fellowship. And that was kind of my into the Paralympic movement. Um, Fast forward, I ended up doing a lot of classification for them for multiple years. Built a really great relationship with the leadership for U.S. Paralympic Swimming, and then over time realized they didn't really have much for medical infrastructure or support that was really robust annually. Ended up having to deal with some medical emergencies while I went on trips as a medical classifier. So they recruited me to serve as a team physician, I think in late 2019. And then 2020, one of my other mentors, Dr. John Finoff, came in. He was the chief. He started his role as chief medical officer for the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. He recognized, hey, all of these sports need to have a head team physician. And so really he helped me, he encouraged me to apply to do that role with US Paralympic Swimming. And I was able to get that role and became their head team physician and medical director. And ever since then, I've been working very closely with Dr. Finoff, a lot of other leadership at the USOPC, our leadership at US Paralympic Swimming, and a lot of other medical leads from other sports to really build out our medical infrastructure and support for our sport.
I love that. And it's very clear that you're somebody who is a trailblazer and a pioneer and somebody who likes to build systems and programs in place where it doesn't exist. You pretty much were in Dallas and was building some of these programs from bottom up. And now you're in this position of leadership where you can influence and continue to use your skills and your passion to help so many people down the line. And that brings to our next point is that you are part of the Futures Leader program because you're a great leader to begin with. And now you're in this program. So can you tell us a little bit about why did you apply to this particular program?
Yeah, so I've always loved working with AAPM&R. I have been heavily involved with AAPM&R since I was a PGY2 PM&R resident, was on back then it was the Resident Physician Council or the RPC board, and served multiple roles. I was the president of the RPC board but during my PGY3 and early PGY4 year, and then actually was able to get them to change it over to what we call now the FIT board, which is the Physiatrist in Training Board, to also include fellows and now also medical students. And so I was involved with the FIT board or RPC board slash FIT board for a total of 6 years, and then have been involved as an attending on the medical education committee for the past almost 6 years now, and really saw that the Future Leaders Program was a great opportunity to be able to gain some leadership skills, maybe some insights that I haven't maybe gotten from other areas through my roles in AAPM&R. It also allows me to network really well with other leaders in AAPM&R, along with other leaders in my cohort. So, we have meetings with the Board of Governors, with other member community leads. We get to do advocacy through Day on the Hill that's coming up in Washington, D.C. During our program. And I've also learned so much from the other leaders in my Future Leaders class. It's been really great to pick their brains, see the varying experiences they've had through their leadership roles and their perspectives, and getting to brainstorm on how do we leverage things for the future of the PM&R specialty.
I love that. And for any residents listening, Dr. Tao is the marketing brand behind the Fit for Council. So thank you for giving us that makeover and including the fellows, because I think that legacy continues today as somebody who's recently been part of the Fit Board and benefited. So thank you for all that you've done to shape AAPM&R, starting as a resident, really. And what has been the best part of your Future Leaders program so far? And how has that affected your practice or approach to leadership?
Yeah, I think for me, it always comes down to people and relationships. And so I've really valued the relationships I've built with people in my own class for the Future Leaders program, as well as other leadership outside that we've gotten to get to know through a lot of the different leadership networking events that we've done. I have not done a lot of advocacy on the Hill in DC directly. I've done advocacy in other ways. And so I'm really also looking forward to other experiences that I have not gotten to get through other leadership roles yet.
That's incredible. And as we call for the next class of the future leaders, why should members who are three to 10 years in practice consider applying?
Definitely, if you want to make a difference and impact in our specialty, or for patients with disabilities, I think it's a really great opportunity to get involved heavily with AAPM&R leadership opportunities, to network with other leaders and brainstorm, and get just different, I guess, training for how to be an effective leader as a physiatrist.
It's incredible. And I just want to end with a note that, you talked about it. We talked a little bit about the Olympics and Paralympics, but if you are in an Olympic, you get to create an Olympic event for something that you do outside of medicine. It can be a hobby, a secret talent that we don't know about, or a hidden skill. What event would you be competing in?
Oh gosh. Good answer. Like there's the answer of what am I actually talented in versus what I wish I was talented in.
Actually, that's great. Okay, actually, what is the realistic answer? Like, what is something that you would do it because you're good at? And then I also want to hear about what is it something that you wish you were good at?
Yeah, I think
You're working
maybe I'm really good at learning like crafting skills really quickly. So I love to like crochet, paint, do more like creative artsy type things. I'm a quick learner. And so like if you had an event, kind of like so I have a background in music as well, but when you're sightseeing for music, the equivalent of like sightseeing for doing crafting and like catching on really quickly, maybe that could be a cool event. And then I've always wished I was like really good at like dance, like hip hop or like more contemporary type dance or like gymnastics, which is funny because my youngest sister was the most talented in those areas growing up. I did not have those skills. I tried. So that's what I wish was something with like performance medicine that I could be good at, but that is not my natural talent.
But I feel like you have so many other talents. And let me just remind everybody that she is quadruple board certified. So she has so many talents and she's also an athlete of her own right. So, Dr. Tao, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing a little bit about yourself and also for the program and getting other future AAPM&R members excited about the Future Leaders Program. It is a pleasure to have you.
Yes, thank you for spending the time tonight.
Thank you so much.